Storytelling is the most archaic and vital human art. And no theater is storytelling incarnate. No, written with the character for skill or talent, is a form of Japanese classical drama originating from the 14th century that continues to be performed to this day. No theater depicts its stories through a combination of music, dance, and acting, but perhaps most important of all, and signature to its iconography, is its use of masks. These masks, carved from delicate wood, represent roles, characters, and archetypes within the story. Be it an old man, a lonely woman, or a malevolent spirit, an actor who puts on the mask becomes its character. But do not be fooled by the mask's frozen visage. In the hands of a skilled actor, the mask can come alive. Every subtle movement, every glint of light seems to change the mask's expression. A mask that is smiling may become sorrowful just as easily, and so too can the mask's meaning change. It is, in and of itself, a story within a story, a tale within a tale. With 700 years of rich history, No is an art that has survived modernization, war, and vast cultural shifts. It is the oldest known theater art that is still practiced today, an art that transcends time itself, telling ageless stories that have raised countless generations, and serve as a foundational touchstone for so many pieces of modern pop culture. Flesh and Blood may seem like an unlikely source to take inspiration from No theater, but we can see a warm appreciation of the theater art through the game's mask cards. These cards, like the masks of No theater, are not only props in a larger story, but stories unto themselves. They too are fluid in their function and meaning, a nuanced interplay of identity, emotion, and transformation that invites us to connect deeper with the narratives they craft. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Liv or TCG, and I make content about my favorite card game of all time, Flesh and Blood. So if you'd like to see more content like this, or just more TCG content in general, please don't forget to subscribe. Today's tea is Lady Gatsby, and it's the closest I could get to a Japanese traditional tea without keeping myself awake all night long. I will list the flavors here, it's very nice and I would highly recommend. I would also like to add a disclaimer that I am not an expert in Japanese mythology, culture, history, or language, and this video has been born from the research available to me online. So with all of that out of the way, let's get into the video. While not every mask is necessarily an homage to No theater, almost all take inspiration from Japanese culture and mythology. The Mask of Shifting Perspectives references the legendary Japanese creature, the Tengu. Descriptions differ from region to region and through the centuries, from demons to guardian spirits. But nevertheless, the Tengu's unmistakable long rounded nose remains an iconic part of its appearance, albeit their faces are traditionally red rather than the purple featured on the card. You may already be familiar with depictions of the Tengu through Pokemon, Sekiro, Genshin Impact, and many, many more. The Mask of Momentum and Mask of the Pouncing Lynx are similarly homages to creatures of Japanese mythology. In this case, the Kitsune, folkloric foxes that possess the power of shapeshifting. Like the Tengu, the Kitsune are not confined by one role or stereotype. Though all Kitsune seem to share a love for mischief and trickery, some folklore sees the foxes as more vampiric shapeshifters, whilst others depict them in a benevolent light. They can be seductresses or faithful wives, thieves or pious servants to the Shinto gods. Some legends tell of Kitsune gaining additional tails as they live for centuries upon centuries, growing wiser with each. I'm sure any anime fans in my audience will recognize Naruto and its nine-tailed fox, Kurama. Or perhaps you're more familiar with Onimaru from One Piece. Did you know its love for abarage, or fried tofu skin, is another reference to Japanese folklore? It is easy to see how depictions of the Kitsune has not only influenced the design and mechanics of the two ninja masks, but their lore too. The Mask of the Pouncing Lynx's lore text reads, "While the rite of passing honors ancestors from bygone days of old, the New Year's springtime mist leads the 7 clans in celebration of life anew. Don the Mask of the Pouncing Lynx and cause some mischief." The idea of causing mischief is an obvious reference to the kitsune as trickster spirits, and we can see the way the mechanics reflect this, extending your chain of attacks when your opponents least expect it, and creating new cards out of thin air. But what can be more easily missed is the reference to New Year's Day. According to old legends, it's said that on New Year's Eve, foxes across Japan gather under a hackberry tree, put on human clothes, and then go to the local shrines to pray. This story has inspired the Kitsune no Gyoretsu, or the Fox Procession, an event where participants would gather on New Year's Eve in traditional clothing, and then parade from shrine to shrine. It is a common sight to see children and adults wearing fox masks or fox makeup at these parades, just as the girl does in the artwork for the Mask of the Pouncing Lynx. The Mask of Momentum doesn't seem to echo the kitsune as strongly in its mechanics, perhaps calling back on the foxes as agile and tricky creatures in how the card rewards you for lining up a precise chain of attacks. However, the card's art references another part of kitsune myth, the Kitsune no Yomeiri, or Fox's Wedding, where one can see distant glowing lights in the dark, appearing like paper lanterns from a wedding ceremony, only to disappear once you get closer, as if you were just tricked by a playful fox. Of all Flesh and Blood's mask cards, the most rich in detail and storytelling is the Mask of Perdition, the mask of the game's founding assassin hero, Arakni Huntsman. The card itself contains such a great amount of allusions to so many facets of Japanese culture. So the question is, what is the Mask of Perdition? The first aspect to mention is the mask's function to block, to be used as armor. In Flesh and Blood, players start with a full set of equipment or armor. Typically, the primary purpose of this is to prevent damage from leaking through to your life total, or imposing harmful and disruptive on-hit effects. Long ago, in feudal Japan, the samurai would wear specific pieces of armor meant to cover their faces. These armors, called men-yoroi, menpo, or mengu, could be plain and purely functional, but could also be decorated with facial details meant to instill fear into their enemies on the battlefield, things like a mustache or fierce teeth. Many of you might be familiar with Jin Sakai's Mask and Ghost of Tsushima. The specific type of men-yoroi is called menpo and covers the nose down to the chin. We see a character wearing a menpo in the card art for Rising Resentment. The mask that Arakni, Black Widow, wears in her card art is also of the menpo variety. The type of men-yoroi that the Mask of Perdition might be would be called somen, armor that covers the entire face. But of course it isn't called the Armor of Perdition. Yes, it may have uses to protect, but it is at the end of the day a mask, a disguise meant to hide one's identity. Ninjas of the school Kumogakure Ryu were said to wear monstrous masks as a disguise, and like some of the samurai armor, use its frightening design to strike fear into their enemies. The Taiheki, a medieval Japanese historical epic, details the general Fujiwara Senpo, who rebelled against his government and in his insurrection utilized ninjas, bearing the masks of 4 mythical demons. Recreations of these masks are still on display at the Iga Ninja Museum, located in Mie Prefecture of Japan. It's not hard to see the parallels between these mask-wearing ninjas and Flesh and Blood's master assassin, Arakni. Even the Mask of Perdition's ability, letting you banish extra cards from your opponent's deck, seems to echo the tactics of the ninjas, whittling down your resources, scouting out your intimate secrets, all the while combing through the safety of your own deck to find and execute their contract killings. On a separate note, I do find it funny that the ninja class, with its wandering ronin, rebel swordsman, and warrior monk, would find an entirely unrelated hero more closely embodying the tactics and aesthetics of its namesake. We have already talked about the practical functions of the mask, but I am more interested in the design of the mask itself. Many people are already familiar with the Mask of Perdition as an Oni mask. The Oni are demons or ogres from Japanese folklore, most often highlighted for their horrifying appearance and malicious tendencies. An Oni mask, then, is worn to embody misfortune and evil. In Japan, people celebrate Setsubun, which is a holiday on the last day of winter, celebrating the coming of spring. On this day, a member of the family or community may wear an Oni mask, and it is tradition to throw roasted soybeans at them while shouting, "Oni wa soto, fuku wa uchi," or "Devil's out, fortune in." The beans are thought to drive out evil spirits and bring good luck or health for the year. What a lot of people tend to miss though is that the Mask of Perdition is not just an Oni mask. It is a specific type of Oni mask known as the Hanya mask, characterized by its large, bull-like horns and leering smile. The Hanya mask is used in traditional No theater, representing a vengeful female spirit who is transformed into a demon, either out of jealousy or anger. An actor putting on this mask will embody the transformation into something depraved and inhuman. Arakni is not the first fictional assassin to wear a Hanya mask. I would be remiss not to mention Rurouni Kenshin's aptly named Hanya, a fearsome antagonist who wears his namesake mask to cover his disfigured face. Even in the West, we have characters like Overwatch's Genji in his legendary Oni skin, or Team Fortress 2's Spy and his humorously named cosmetic item, No Mercy. The most famous No play featuring the Hanya mask is Aoi no Ue. In the story, the titular lady, who is not played by an actor but rather represented on stage by an empty kimono, is the wife of Prince Genji. She has fallen gravely ill, and a visit from a priestess reveals that she is possessed by an evil spirit. The spirit turns out to be a widow and Prince Genji's mistress, Lady Rokujo, who has haunted the lady out of envy. The family seeks the help of a priest, who confronts Lady Rokujo in a battle. During this battle, the jealousy in her heart transforms her into a demon. The play ends with the mistress demon being defeated and her angry spirit being laid to rest. What is truly fascinating about this No play is the complexity with which the character of Lady Rokujo is presented. Yes, she becomes a jealous demon, but the play also shows her in a sympathetic light, having recently lost her previous husband and now being ignored by her new lover. As I mentioned before, No theater has such an ability to show nuance in subtle, unexpected ways. Despite being carved from wood, the Hanya mask can capture the fluidity of human emotion. The mask is scary, yes, but that is only when the actor looks straight ahead. When the actor tilts their head downwards, the expression may appear sad, and even as if the face is crying. It is all a matter of perspective. Arakni's own Hanya mask can also invite us to view their character in a different light. They are a merciless assassin, singularly obsessed with murder and death. But perhaps they were not always that way. Just as the play's demon used to be Lady Rokujo, Arakni was once patient 1413. In the story written for Arakni, Solitary Confinement, they were raised far from civilization, with no understanding of even language. When they did come into contact with society, they were thrown into an asylum, tortured, pumped full of drugs, and experimented on for years. There isn't a lot of story featuring Arakni, but what is there seems to suggest a more nuanced character than just a straight killer for hire. Even the color of the mask may give us more insight into Arakni's character. The color of a Hanya mask is designed to reflect the character wearing it. A white mask, like that worn by Lady Rokujo, denotes a character of aristocratic birth, whereas a red mask, like that of the Mask of Perdition, is worn by characters of lower class. In No theater, the Hanya mask is only one type of mask that portrays a vengeful female spirit. In fact, there is a whole series of masks depicting one's transformation into the demonic. The Dagon mask represents the first stage of this transformation, noted by the gold-painted eyes and growing teeth. Next is the Hashihime mask, with more disheveled hair and a more scornful expression. Finally, there is the Namanari mask, the final stage of transformation, denoting a woman in the process of becoming a full-on demon. Note in particular the short horns that have begun to sprout from both sides of the forehead. However, they are yet to grow to their full size, as would be in a Hanya mask, representing that there is still humanity remaining in the woman and she is still emotionally attached to her lover. We can see in No theater that the appearance of a horn on a mask can tell us a lot about the character wearing it, and their level of humanity. If we return to the Mask of Perdition, we can see clearly in its card art, as well as all card art featuring Arakni, that there is only one fully grown horn on the mask, as opposed to the dual horns that would be on a fully demon Hanya mask. Does this mean that Arakni is not the monster they portray themselves as? Is there still some humanity left in the assassin? Some potential, no matter how small, for redemption? Perhaps at one point. But after the events of Dynasty and the assassination of the Emperor, the next time we see Arakni chronologically is in the newly revealed cards for the game's newest set, The Hunted. Here, in Arakni's new hero card, Arakni slipped through the cracks. Whatever semblance of sanity left in the assassin is clearly long gone. just as No's Naminari masks depict the final stage in one's transformation into a demon through the horns. We can see the one horn Arakni had has since grown in length, and on the other side there is a second horn growing. The transformation is almost complete, and a demon is about to be born anew. Very quickly, I want to also touch on the Mask of Recurring Nightmares, which is also a Hanya mask. In many ways, the Mask of Recurring Nightmares fits the Hanya mask archetype much better, representing a jealous and scorned woman in new, alluring desires. Unlike the Mask of Perdition, which focuses more on the transformation into the demonic, Mask of Recurring Nightmares seem to reference a different note play, Dojoji. In Dojoji, Kiyohime, a steward's daughter, falls in love with a traveling monk. Upon being rejected, her rage transforms her into a giant snake, and she goes on to kill the monk. I'm sure I don't need to elaborate further on the Flesh and Blood analogies here. How amazing is it that in a game containing more than 4,500 different cards, just one card can convey such an intricate and detailed history, drawing from such wide and varied sources. The Mask of Perdition, with only 70 words total on its card, represents an item that protects, disguises, frightens, emotes, transforms, and most importantly of all, tells a story about the character who wears it. There are many more masks in the game that I don't have time to explore in this video, but if you're interested in specific Flesh and Blood cards or art or history, I would definitely encourage you to take the time to explore them more, maybe even doing your own research. In my experience, every Flesh and Blood card has some sort of history to it for those who are willing to look. And I know it can be cringe to look at a trading card game that on its surface is just a mix of generic fantasy tropes, and extrapolate it to something like traditional Japanese theater. But behind cards and designs like these are real people, developers, and artists who have loved and been inspired by the diverse world around us. Both No and Flesh and Blood remind us that stories are not confined to just words. They are two things that on the surface cannot be any more different, 7 centuries and 10,000 kilometers apart, but are intertwined by their shared love for telling timeless stories. Thank you for watching.